Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so we're going to bring this meeting to order. This is the HRC of December 18th. I am Joy Coleman, the chair. Avery, would you like to give some preliminary meeting instruction?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. Just a few items. Please silence your cell phones to minimize distractions during the meeting. When the chair calls for public comment, please approach the podium to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak during public comment. Once your name is called, please unmute and turn your camera on to provide your comments. The primary format for accessing and participating in this meeting tonight is at City Hall. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored, and if you have trouble, the meeting can be viewed on the city's YouTube channel, cable channel 25. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to the chair.
Thank you. Now we'll take a roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Buchanan.
Here.
Commissioner Hernley.
Here.
Commissioner Klein. Present. Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
And Commissioner Dearborn.
Here.
We are all present. There is at present still one open seat on this commission, and we would very much like to hear from you, the public. We would like you on our commission, so please apply. We have, here at the beginning, Part A, communications. So have we received any communications from other commissions, state historic preservation officer, or the general public?
We did actually receive 2 communications from the State Historic Preservation Office, and they will be on your January agenda for properties being nominated to the Kansas and National Registers.
Wonderful. And from commissioners, any disclosures of ex parte communications? Okay, I hear none. Any declarations of abstentions from specific agenda items tonight? No? Perfect. And number 4 of this part is committee reports. Do we have any committee reports?
We do not have any committee reports.
I was wondering if we could know what the why the Dowdell and Rice markers are not on tonight's agenda, as we were told.
We did not get the new photograph and change in the language completed in time to get it included in the packet information. So hopefully that will be on your January agenda.
Noted, thank you. So we'll move on to Part B, the consent agenda. We had a few design review applications on the consent agenda. Anyone want to make a motion to approve those or discuss them?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham and Commissioner Dearborn. We'll take a vote. Commissioner Buchanan.
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley.
Aye.
Commissioner Klein.
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Aye.
And Commissioner Dearborn.
Aye.
Chair Coleman is an aye. So motion passes. Moving on to public comment. This is the time, if anyone has any comments to make to address to the commission that are not on tonight's agenda, please feel free to stand or turn off your mic and make those comments in an orderly fashion. All right, we see no public comments, so we'll move on to public hearing items. The first item is HRC 250027.
All right. Technology is wonderful when it works. Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator for this city. And the item before you this evening is a very exciting item. I know we've been waiting for it for a little while, as long as some other people have as well. It is new construction at 1420 Crescent Road. It is a property that is located in the context area of the KU Mega House at 1345 West Campus Road. And if you'll recall, the Historic Resources Commission approved the demolition of the previous structure on this site earlier in the year in anticipation of this new building. This is the project site in the center of the screen. The light blue area is the project site, and the blue area is the listed property, the KU Mega House. And if you'll notice, the house is actually here along West Campus Road and then a portion along Crescent Road. So while the rest of this shows up in blue, it is a parking area and not actually structure. This is the site location and a photograph of the KU Mega House, just to get you a feel for the architecture of the structure. Some information was included in your staff report about a little bit of history of the KU Mega House and how this area developed. On the screen is the 1927 Sanborn map showing the KU Mega House in the circle. And then by 1949, we had the previous structure that was approved for demolition earlier this year, and that area in yellow is the actual project site for this evening. Just wanted to throw in, because we had this great aerial to show you the KU Mega House, and also to kind of emphasize the historic neighborhood to the west of the KU Mega House was really just developing at this time. Looking around the context area for the KU Mega House, as you know, the university is right across the street, and so you really have kind of a different set of context area for the KU Mega House, because you do have the university buildings, which have a distinctive university type of architecture, and then you also have the residential neighborhood to the west that has smaller structures, but most of them do have brick or stone, as well as the historic structures on the university campus. And then I had to put the reliefs in your staff report and then also on the PowerPoint slide, because if you've never gone up to look at this building in person and see those, you should take a little walk and see some of POCO's really good work. When the project was submitted, this is the site plan that was included in the project packet. If you'll notice, the footprint for the primary part of the structure is very similar to where the previous structure was. It is a little bit larger, and it doesn't have quite the separation from the KU Mega House that the previous structure did, but there is a driveway, if you're familiar with this area, that will separate the KU Mega property from this property. This is the submitted primary elevation that's discussed in your packet, and some of the different materials that are used on the structure really talk to the character of the context area. The applicant has included stone, which is a dominant material both on the university campus and in that residential neighborhood to the west. Just quickly looking at the elevations that were in your packet to show you the work that the team did to try to be respectful to the KU Mega House and other buildings in the context area, and some information in your packet this evening also kind of led you through their design process, what they were thinking about as they designed this structure. This would be the rear of the structure. And again, with that stone being a very compatible material, the window patterning very compatible both with the Omega House and the structures on the university campus. And then looking at that west elevation that faces the residential area. The applicant also included a height comparison because as we started out with this project many months ago, we talked about one of the primary concerns for staff was going to be the height of the new proposed structure and that it would not overwhelm the Omega House. This is a very busy intersection if you've ever been through here, and the intent would be to celebrate this new building as part of an exciting chapter in the university's history, but also to respect that history of the Omega House that has been there historically and a big focal point for this area of Lawrence. In your staff report, staff went through, this is a certificate of approval only project, and staff went through the standards and guidelines to make sure and to discuss compatibility for the proposed new structure. And there was some discussion about the height and the massing and the scale of the proposed new structure, primarily because there were concerns about that primary facade that would be facing the street and that would be visually in comparison to the Omega House when you're traveling through this area. And so staff has some comments in your staff report about because there's so much glass on the primary elevation, you do lose a little bit of that rhythm of openings that we talk about being important. It does kind of tip the scale and massing a little bit with a very large chimney on that west elevation and then the amount of glass that was proposed. And the design team, when they got staff's report, did something that's pretty miraculous for working with these projects at this stage and this large of a project. And they took all the things that staff said and they tried to address them. And they submitted that information this week and we added it to your packet. Staff has not done a full analysis of the proposed revisions, but I wanted to go ahead and bring them to you this evening. And I know you've only had them for about 24 hours, but so that we could talk about them with the applicant and see if we're on the right track or how we want to move forward from this point. If you notice in the information that the applicant submitted, they addressed some of the primary concerns for staff. They looked at the building footprint and they provided a 12-foot setback at the north side of the plan. Some of the things they did, they were adjusting for the site plan process that they're going through, but things like the building height, they reduced the overall height and even the tower chimney on that west elevation to be more compatible with the Omega House. They added some additional detailing and revisions to the building elevation to include some additional stone and introduction of terracotta or glazed stone elements on the structure to help break up all of the glass on the primary facade. And so what they've done, or what staff thinks they've done, is they've addressed most of those comments that staff had concerns about. And we're going to look at the elevations now that they submitted and see how the design changes really have, in staff's opinion, addressed a lot of those concerns. So this is the new building footprint. You still have the Omega House here on the right side of the screen, but you'll notice there is a larger setback on that east elevation to give a greater break between the two structures that was more in keeping with the historic development pattern of the area. Looking at that east elevation, this would be the elevation that faces the Chi Omega House. They still kept that great stone and the multi-pane windows. But if you'll notice some of the concerns that staff had for the primary elevation or that south-facing elevation is where they've added some materials to the curtain wall system and taken a little bit and added a little bit of opaqueness to some of that glass so that you do start to get more of that rhythm of openings that is pretty consistent with the buildings on the university campus and the Chi Omega House. On the rear elevation, again, they kept those things that were really important to the compatibility of the structure. And this is a good elevation to look at the changes in the chimney height. And also, don't miss that they added some great detailing to the top of that chimney that really is compatible with kind of reflective of a design time when we did pay attention to small details like that. And it really helps it with the compatibility to that residential neighborhood to the west. And then again, this is the west elevation, so you can get a better idea of that detail, the height being taken down a little bit on the chimney. And I did ask the architect to talk to me a little bit, and we'll ask him when he gets up in a little bit to talk a little bit about the height of the chimney element. And did want to point out that part of that is with the new land development code. When you go through the site planning process and new construction process, on prominent corners, it talks about having an architectural element or some type of design feature that is prominent to give architectural interest to the area. And so part of the reason for the chimney tower is to meet that development code. And then this is what I think is the most exciting about the primary elevation. They've given us a really good drawing that's in your packet of how this will look in comparison to that side. Remember, that's the side of the Chi Omega House, not the front. And so it gives you a good idea of the overall height. And so the height, with not considering the large penthouse area, is really very compatible with the Chi Omega House. They have introduced some of those materials that help minimize the impact of all glazing on the primary structure. And just wanted to put up some of the renderings that were included in your packet to show some of the differences and the great job that they've done working on the compatibility of the structure with the residential neighborhood to the west, as well as the Chi Omega House and the buildings on the university campus across the street. And this is the southwest corner of the building. And then this is the main view of the building that you'll see when you're starting to make that turn in the corner there, and how it relates to the Chi Omega House. And then just up against that side elevation of the Chi Omega House. In staff's opinion, adding some of that opaque material really helped define that primary elevation. It kept the modern design of the structure and the innovation of the structure while making it more compatible with the context area. Staff's original recommendation that is included in your staff report this evening was to refer this project to the Architectural Review Committee for them to work with the applicant on refining some of those design issues like the height and the transparency of that primary elevation, and try to adjust some of those things So the staff was recommending this go to the Architectural Review Committee. The applicant has since submitted those changes that you do have in your packet, but as I mentioned, staff hasn't had the time to go through and do a review that takes, like we typically do, you know, where we have the design standard and how does it meet it, how does it not, that kind of in-depth review. So you have a couple of options in staff's opinion this evening. You can go ahead and refer this project to the Architectural Review Committee with the project returning to the full Historic Resources Commission in January for final approval after the applicant works with the ARC. You can go ahead and approve the certificate of approval if you think that they've made changes and it's really close with the condition that they still meet with the Architectural Review Committee and that the ARC approved the final design. In other words, if you think what they have submitted is really close, but maybe just, you know, this little inch here, but you don't want them to have to wait to come back again in January to move forward with the project. So that's an option. The way Chapter 22 is written now, you can do an approval with a condition. You can approve the certificate of approval with or without conditions, whatever they may be. And then, of course, you always have the option to deny the certificate of approval. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
I'm wondering, do we have the updated drawings in the packet, or are they not in the packet?
No, they should be in
They're
the
at the
packet.
end of the packet?
They're at the end.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So the late submittal wasn't today, it was?
Oh, no, I think it was updated yesterday morning, maybe.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you. Just trying to make sure that we all have the information in front of us.
Yes.
Do you mind going back to that slide that had the differences between the first submission? So the banding at the chimney, the opaque areas of the primary facade.
And we may want to let the architect walk you through some of those as well. I included their email in the packet that they sent with the revisions. On this slide, though, kind of summarizes
Yeah, that
those
slide.
things from the architect about the changes to the building footprint setbacks, the building height reduction, the additional detailing, including my favorite on the chimney, so I have to point that out a million times. And then just some things that were changed with the site itself, with the footprint and those things, and the parking to address some issues with the site plan.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, can we hear from the architect, please, or the applicant?
I'll start with what Lynn alluded to on the chimney that's part of the project, which has been in some of the staff comments. The original discussion for the design of the project was two things. One, with the entrepreneurship program for the School of Business, is that the students would be going through an educational journey with this project. And as they, start on the first floor, it would be more of your entry-level students, and then ascending through to second and third floor. And so the tower kind of created a symbolic impression of that ascension through their educational journey. The other part of the discussion was kind of looking at Jayhawk Boulevard in its entirety. If you look at the eastern end, starting with the Oriad Hotel, but then going to Dyke Hall, Stauffer Flint, a lot of the educational buildings on KU's campus have a tower element. And we thought by this western edge of the campus, this northwest corner, the tower element would kind of bookend or anchor that west side of campus, extending Jayhawk Boulevard to that major intersection. Then as the design developed, we looked at it a little bit further, and we introduced a fireplace into the project, and kind of thinking about how Chi Omega as a residential property has chimneys on it, and then the residential neighborhood to the northwest. You know, we felt that kind of complemented the neighborhood by creating a little more of a residential flair to the project. So that kind of responds to what Lynn introduced on that element. As you see in the resubmission, we have spent a lot of time looking at the scale and size of the building. The original McLean's Bakery was actually about 4'10" off the property line. It was actually really pretty close, at least 2/3 of it kind of stepped back. With the staff comments and in the major site plan submission, we've worked to reduce that building footprint such that we now have the setback per the Lawrence Development Code, 12 feet on the north. We're 10'3" on the east side. So we will still be seeking a variance for the 12-foot setback on that side. But it is a significant difference between the original McLean's Bakery that was there and this building, providing more separation. And then as for the elevation, as you do see in the revisions, we've spent a lot of time looking at materiality and knowing that stone is predominant on the university's campus and even in the neighborhood, as Lynn mentioned. We have increased the amount of the Kansas limestone in the facade and then introduced a new material being either a terracotta or a glazed stone. We haven't quite selected the final product, but creating an accent and reducing the amount of glass on that elevation. Are there any additional questions on either where we started or the resubmission?
Yes. I'm still trying to figure out what the building's for. So this is actually a KU building, a school building.
So University, Kansas, KU Endowment. You want to jump in on that then?
My name's Monty Sokup. I'm Monty Sokup. I'm with KU Endowment Association. We're the owner of the building. We bought McLean's. We're the not-for-profit fundraising organization for the University of Kansas. It's a privately funded project to serve the university. So we are the owner, and we're building the building, and it will be turned over to the university. Similar process to the School of Business and many other buildings on the campus. So the program is the entrepreneurship program for the University of Kansas. It's a program within the School of Business, but 70% of the students that go to that in that program are not in the School of Business. They're architects, they're engineers, they're liberal arts students. So they wanted to get that program in a more visible place on campus and out of the School of Business building. So we selected through several years of searching, we selected and managed to purchase the site. So that's the program that goes there. So again, it's a program within the School of Business for entrepreneurship, and it's available to all students at the University of campus. And that's part of why they wanted it kind of on a prominent spot on campus. So that's the program that's will be in the building. So the first floor, kind of like Dan said, the first floor is kind of an entry level. They'll have an assembly space there, and they'll have activities like forums where they'll have other people will do pitches, because these are students learning how to start businesses. Entrepreneurs typically have 4 attempts at starting a program before they have a successful one. So part of the idea is that they get 1 or 2 of those out of their way while they're a student. So they'll have students doing pitches, business pitches, kind of like Shark Tank, if you will. In that kind of space, they will have successful business owners and entrepreneurs come in and do forums for them. So a lot of kind of public activity on that first floor. Again, it's kind of the entry level gateway, get people introduced. It doesn't feel real academic. And then as you go up, there'll be classrooms on the second floor. Mm-hmm. And then when you go on the third floor, it's really what they would call a capstone or I'm drawing the wrong. Catalyst. It's a Catalyst organization. So those are people at the top of the pyramid that have maybe been there and are really excelling at that. So that's kind of what the top floor is dedicated to. So it's a big classroom up there, but then there's also a little bit of faculty space and some general commingling, cross-pollination space for those kids. So that's what's inside the building. I'd like to point out just a couple more things that Dan didn't point out, and I think it's a testament to their desire to make this fit in with the KU house and not detract from the KU house. It's a beautiful building, loved by everyone, right? So one of the things we did is the elevation really doesn't give this thing justice because they set the third floor back, I don't know, is it maybe 12 or 15 feet from the face of the building? So when you drive up to this building, it's really going to look a lot like a two-story building as you approach it. And that second face sits back, and then the penthouse sits back another 20 or 30 feet. So you're really not even going to see from the ground, or as you drive up, it's really going to be hard to see that penthouse at all.
Particularly with the hill.
Particularly
Well,
with
there's
the
a
hill.
hill,
And
right. I mean, it's the
point of,
hill.
You know,
There's no windows in the penthouse? It's just a
no,
black...
it's mechanical space. That is the mechanical.
Okay, see, I know, the terms are
Yeah.
conflicting
Yeah,
in my
different kind
head.
of-
So it's a mechanical.
Yeah, so it's a mechanical room, so the
mechanical
third
room.
floor is mechanical space for
Yeah,
the...
it's chiller.
Or chiller and the heating and whatever,
Boiler,
okay.
air handler,
So,
yeah.
so a couple other questions. Why does the chimney tower need to be so tall, and where's the fireplace?
So the fireplaces, I believe there's one on each floor.
Ah. Looking for
And then they,
I'm not seeing them.
they're actually built into the face of that chimney on the side that's in the building.
Southwest corner of the building.
That's the fireplace right there? And then one on each floor?
And again, those fireplaces are typically in those kind of commingling, I call it cross-pollination spaces that we want kids to hang out in and study and talk to each other. That's ideation, creation space for those people. That's part of it's one of the things that makes the program click. So we create those spaces for them. And there's one on each floor, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Everything I
It
want-
wasn't marked, that's why I didn't know. So that looks like the fireplaces are squarish, but the chimney is this long rectangle. I'm not coordinating with I'm
Well,
not
as an
visualizing.
architectural element, I think the chimney first serves as an architectural element for the outside. It's got to be scaled, in my opinion, it's got to be scaled to the building, not to the fireplace. I don't know, maybe architecturally, maybe you guys have a better answer.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize here.
A couple other things about the fireplace and the chimney. So, yeah, as Monty was alluding to, really want the students to hang out and collaborate and create new ideas in the space. So we were looking at more of that hospitality space in each of those 3 floors in that kind of western side of the building. So we did introduce the fireplace on those 3 floors in that corner. We haven't picked the final size of the actual fireplace, but the tower scale was refined to try and stay in proportion of the building. And then for the height, we looked at several factors, one of which, as Lynn alluded to, is in the Lawrence Development Code. At an intersection, it talks about a focal point for a building. And so we looked at this tower as that focal point, a beacon to the education that's occurring within the building.
So it's more symbolic, not more symbolic than utilitarian, but it is symbolic as well as utilitarian.
Yeah, we created a purpose with the symbolic nature of the element.
It's a functional chimney, so it needs to
Yeah.
be a certain distance above the roof line
Yeah.
for proper airflow and circulation.
It certainly helps balance everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like the chimney.
Any other questions before we have public?
I have a question for you all in regarding to the front facade, the south-facing facade of it, and like all the glass there. I appreciate the way that you have framed the concept, like behind the design of the building. I actually like the steps where you kind of outline like how it kind of came together, and how you talked about this being kind of like the end of Jayhawk Boulevard that begins at Oriad and kind of concludes at this northwest corner. The reason why this has come between the HRC committee is because it's right next to the Chi Omega sorority house, which is on the local historic registry. It's within that environs, and so it's coming before us. But I think it's also important to consider that it's across the street from the university, which is on the National Historic Registry. It doesn't have that environ to it. But I'm thinking about like the glass facade there. It doesn't necessarily match up with the style of the Chi Omega sorority house. But right across the street there is Ritchie Hall, which has like the corner facing of that is a glass facade. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's just two different architectural styles, and you're trying to balance, trying to find that balance in between. As far as kind of like the rhythm of openings and the massing of that, is there a consideration on maybe like breaking up some of that glass facade? In particular, as I'm looking at these floor plans, one of the floors has classrooms that are facing the south. I don't know if that might be a distraction for the students. If you have a beautiful view outside the window, it'll be hard to pay attention to what's being taught at the front of the class, and also too, I mean, it's south facing, so the sun might be there, which might affect, might be blinding. It might affect the temperature of the room. Is it possible to kind of just in some way kind of break up the windows on that southern facade that can kind of fit with the way it looks at the windows are at the Chi Omega house?
Sure. Let me first explain how that elevation developed, because we've spent the last several months talking to a lot of different groups. And so looking into the building, one of the big things for the School of Business and for the university is to attract students into the entrepreneurship program. So they wanted high visibility of the activities in the building. So that drove kind of the discussion of how much visual transparency coming up the street, and then also the circulation along Crescent Boulevard to attract students into the building. Talking to a lot of the student groups, they're coming from a lot of those older buildings, double-loaded corridors, small windows, and there was a desire of the students to have a lot more connection to the outside, to the nature and to the exterior. So that also informed us that we wanted to create enough transparency so that the students could feel that connectedness to the exterior. And then the last thing about kind of, you mentioned the south-facing facade, that kind of drove these a little bit larger overhangs that we've designed into the facade so that we would kind of shade that glass, keep the transparency, but protect the building from solar heat gain and that.
As it relates to the classroom function on the second floor, those rooms, the AV for those rooms are actually on the opposite wall from the glass, so I don't think they're going to be an issue from a glare standpoint. And with the shading, the overhang that Dan alluded to, we're confident that we've got the sun angles figured out there to make sure that that's not going to be an obstacle or a distraction. Dan alluded to this too. We tested a lot of different versions of the plan, both kind of significant departures from what we're recommending and presenting to you all, as well as more minor variations, really iterating through the process. And those were informed by quite a lot of feedback from student representatives, faculty, and staff to inform and influence where we arrived at. So they reflect kind of the consensus preference of the user groups.
Have you made your application to the BZA for the east setback reduction?
We have done the initial submission for the major site plan. We've got all staff comments. We're hoping to resubmit tomorrow, the revisions, a lot of which you see in the resubmission here. But yes, we will have the variance request for the 10-foot 3 setback on the east side versus the 12-foot required in the LDC.
If I could add to that, we've been working closely with the Chi Omega house ownership. We're actually going to be able to widen their driveway a little bit. Right now, it's really too narrow for two-way traffic. So we're actually going to be able to improve by granting them an easement onto our property to widen that driveway and improve that whole situation. The other thing we're going to be able to do is really clean up the utilities on the back side of that. We'll be eliminating either 2 or 3 Evergy overhead poles that feed the Chi house and this building, and we'll be putting all of that underground, along with, the cable, fiber, all that stuff. So basically, we'll have no overhead lines in between these 2 buildings. Right now, they literally zigzag across the parking lots. It's a huge mess right now, but we're going to clean up all of that. So we've been meeting with them regularly and getting their kind of buy-in and seeing what we can do. So we're going to improve their.
And that's a drive, not an alley?
It is a drive to their parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, behind the house.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that was my question is I was thinking about the timing of it's, finals week and Christmas break, winter break and all that, and how does Chi Omega fit in, what their comments were about this whole project. But
I'm literally meeting with them on Monday at
Okay,
10:30.
yeah,
But we've met with them previously at the site as well as off the site. And frankly, we worked very closely with them on the Chi Fountain renovation.
Okay, yeah.
So we had those relationships in place, and it's been a
Good.
very, very good, good process. It's all good.
Okay.
Homeowners Association as well, I believe.
Yeah, and we've met with the Owners Association as well. Pat Peary, who you may or
Yes.
may not know. So I'm on a first name basis with Pat, and I reached out to them and offered to come to their annual meeting, and he said he didn't think we needed to do that, but I offered to come to a special meeting if they decided they wanted to have one. So we reached out that way as well.
And they did show it to their.
Yeah, we
board.
did submit basically what we submitted to Lynn for this committee. We submitted to that group, and they showed that at their annual meeting, and
Okay.
Pat called me back and said, we don't need to have any other, there were no negative comments, we don't need to have any, we're glad to see that corner developed and not be a bar, and all those things. So, I think they think we're a pretty good neighbor. We're going to try to be, certainly.
If for some reason that setback variance is not granted, what is the backup plan?
So we would need to further contract the width of the building 1'9" in order to get from 10'3" to 12 feet. That contraction of those 10 feet from the original submission to what we're now showing was pretty severe, just programmatically in order to maintain the variety of functions as well as the open space that we're driving the program. We felt like getting that extra 2 feet out really began to pinch down some of the circulation spaces and began to detract. So we're recommending that setback and hoping that that will be well received, but we know what it will take to fully comply if that is ultimately what's decided. I don't think it will really be noticeable in terms of the scale, massing, or proportions of the building from the drive up or from the approaches.
And you feel like it's mitigated because you're widening the drive and hiding the utilities?
And the fact that the original building was 4'10" off that property line, and we're now going to be 10'3".
Yeah.
You should have gotten your variance before you tore it down.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Are we doing like
We have a
full
public,
statements, or are we waiting until after public comment?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
But we're happy to answer questions if they
Yeah,
come up along the way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll take public comment on this item, if there is some. Okay, point is moot. There is no public comment, apparently. Commissioner Hernley,
Oh,
would you
sure.
like to go first?
So is there a roof on the penthouse? Or is it?
Part of it.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
roof and the mechanicals in the middle.
So 2/3 of it is an enclosed mechanical penthouse, and then the east third of it is actually a screen wall for an outdoor condensing
Okay.
unit that'll be out there.
Okay. Okay. So that east third does not have a roof?
Correct.
Okay.
But the city does require all rooftop mechanical
Right, to
systems
be screened,
to be
yeah.
screened.
Do you know how tall is that
It's 11 feet.
well, how tall is the piece of equipment that's in that east portion?
It's approximately 8 feet with a 1-foot curb, so it's
Oh,
about a 9
really?
foot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeesh.
Because there is
It's a big unit.
Yeah.
so there is a terrace on the third floor, outdoor terrace with more tables and chairs for students to sit outside, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's what the red horizontal stuff is? Is that like the
No.
floor of the terrace? No?
I'm not quite sure what you're looking
That's,
at.
that's the overhang.
That's the
The
overhang.
red is the overhang.
Okay.
And then the glass rail.
I don't read plans, sorry.
Sure. No,
Kinda
so,
tell.
so if I were to describe the materials you're looking at, kind of the light blue material is the glass. And then there's a darker blue, that's the glazed stone or terracotta. The brown element or red that you were pointing out would be a metal panel, and that's the canopies that are projecting on
So
the
it's
south side.
over the terraces.
Correct.
Okay.
The ground level terrace, the
Well,
upper third floor.
Yeah, the upper ones.
Well, that's,
Okay.
so the main comments that I have are about the southeast corner. So I'm looking at images on, what is that, page? No, it's the very last page, 60 of 60. So there's the southwest view and the southeast view. And the southwest view does a really good job of kind of combining the vertical elements and the horizontal elements and offsetting the brick and the solid brick element and the transparent glass element. So I think that southwest corner works really well, but the southeast corner looks like it's been forgotten a little bit. The way the glass extends out in front of the brick. So on the west side with the brick sticking out, the glass portion, even though it comes out further to the south, it doesn't wrap around the end of the stone portion, the masonry portion. So the masonry has a stronger effect on the southwest corner than it does on the southeast corner. And I think if that southeast corner was reworked a little bit, either the transparent portion pulled in or the transparent portion became an extension of the masonry portion, somehow to sort of get that a similar feel to what's happening on the southwest corner. I don't know if anybody else
Yeah,
sees that.
Yeah,
I
I
see what
totally
you're
see what you
talking
mean. Well,
They are close together on the southeast and they are far apart on the
Yeah.
west.
And in some ways, that would help to sort of balance against the hard masonry corners of the Chi Omega house, to sort of reinforce that strong masonry corner of this building somehow in relationship to that. So I would recommend sort of taking a look at that corner.
If you look at the plan, just one thing to
Yeah, I saw that.
elaborate on.
I looked at it.
Yeah, that stone facade on the east comes down and wraps back. And
Right.
it's similar to what McLean's Bakery actually did. It had a larger facade and then actually stepped to the west. So we kind of mimicked that original footprint a little bit, where we stepped that glass element away from that southeast corner of stone.
That's only on the third level, though. On the first and second levels, the glass
It's small amount.
comes, yeah, it's like that amount.
Yeah.
Again, it used to be much bigger, but then we pulled that east.
Yeah.
When we pulled that,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
lost some of
Yeah.
that.
Up, so
Yeah.
it really did kind of put the squeeze on there, but there's program there.
Yeah.
That transparent corner on the southeast side is also intended to capture the view corridor when students are kind of coming, traveling
Okay,
from east to
so,
west.
so maybe that southeast corner, instead of pulling back, it gets separated from the rest of the storefront, the rest of the glazing. So maybe there's a vertical masonry element at the end of that overhang, so that it sort of
Something to
becomes
anchor
a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure we're all looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's working for me
I
right
just see
now,
that-
so I'm sitting here
It's a
trying
chimney,
to.
yeah, it's focused.
I'm not sure if we do that, or if you all do it, not if we do it.
Yeah, we're not.
That we still maintain the lines.
See, is this what you're talking
Yeah.
about, Stan? Because
Yes.
to me, this kind of makes this portion of it really light, and the heavy building starts back here. So when you're coming around this way or from this way, it helps to give deference to the Omega House.
Maybe.
Maybe a little,
I don't
I mean,
know. If
just
you
by,
look
just
at-
by having
Look
something
at the
lighter there.
Look at the southwest corner, though. Yeah, so.
So
the way-
you would rather have it more integrated like this?
Could
Well-
you share it so that Commissioner Buchanan can see?
Oh, am I not sharing? I'm sorry.
I'm following. I'm following what you guys are talking about. It's okay.
Okay.
I think the southwest corner is working differently because of the overhang.
Because of the
Right,
chimney.
the overhang. and-
Makes all the difference.
The chimney and the
Yeah,
overhang.
and the offset, and, yeah, and the
Yeah, and I
offset
feel
in the
like
glass. So there's,
the
yeah.
side with the tower or the chimney should be different than the other
Because it's
side.
not intended to be symmetrical,
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I could see that southeast corner still being glass, but potentially sort of creating it as a separate, so if you look at the south elevation, if there was a vertical masonry something that separated at the end of the canopy, the end of the overhang, to sort of set that corner apart as give it a little, to separate it from the south facade with a vertical piece of masonry at the end of the canopy,
For what purpose?
to create the corner to make it feel like it's a separate, sort of its own separate little vertical glass piece that you can sit in and look out different directions, just to differentiate it from that south elevation.
So not to be problematic, but this is what it's like in ARC.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Stan, do you not like having the more mass on that west side than on the east side? Because to me,
No, that's okay.
it kind of makes, I'm not sure I want anything vertical and heavy on that east corner.
Well, it wouldn't be right on the east corner. It would be back, so if you go back to the southeast view, it would be something vertical at the end of where the canopy, where the overhang stops. So that you.
So right
get a-
in
You get a
here?
break in the storefront, just on the first and second level.
So just right here.
Yeah, just right there, so that you get that corner differentiated from the south glass.
So are you recommending ARC?
Yeah,
No.
well, may
I'm
I?
recommending that the architects experiment with that and send it to Lynn, and Lynn,
Now, hold on, let's back up a little bit, because
Yeah.
I kind of like with the way it is now.
the way it is,
So you
yeah.
might want it to work with ARC then.
Does it, for the function behind that location that you're talking about, it's about halfway through the classroom on the second floor, it's about halfway through the multi-purpose space on the first floor. So at least for the interior function of the space, a solid element would break up those interior functions a little bit.
It'd create a barrier.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Stan, I agree with you. I get what you're saying, but I also feel like the outside should match the interior programming, and that would, just like what he said, break that. So I see where you're going with it, but I'm leaning towards Len, where I like the lightness, and I feel like having that vertical break just doesn't make sense for the interior programming.
Yeah, because there's the first floor multi-purpose room and the second floor classroom.
I think if we put the vertical element in, when all is said and done, we're going to be looking at the other elevation saying we need to change that now.
no.
I really do.
We're all fine.
Yeah.
And I think that the other elevations, I really appreciate how they relate to not only Kyo, but also Lindley. And I don't want to mess with the balance of it, and I don't want to design during a public meeting.
Right.
So maybe the brick shouldn't return so far on the
The
third
stone?
level, the stone on the third level then.
Well, there's something bothering you about the balance, is that what you're
There's
saying?
something bothering you about the balance.
Yeah, I mean, there's something weird about that corner, because, I mean, that stone
Like it's
is,
unresolved.
it's, if you look at where it's at on the third level relative to the second level, it's coming out just over a part of that room below.
And the third level has a bump out of,
Couple of feet there.
yeah, a
little
couple
farther
feet
over.
of the storefront or the curtain wall under the canopy.
So if
Where the second doesn't have that.
if the stone just stopped and wrapped the corner enough to cover the brick column. I mean, when you look through the glass on the second story and you see the stone continuing above open space that
Yeah,
is out in the middle of the room.
right, and
it's
it
just a
creates
weird
an
thing.
imbalance of something lighter
Yeah.
holding something heavier.
Yes. So if the glass on the third level came all the way to the corner and the stone only wrapped the thickness of the wall, I think that would be better.
You all are responding to proportions that were resolved in the previous iteration when that wall was further east. The stone really
Gotcha.
did return with that thickness.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
then caught the corner of the glass. When we sucked all
There you
that
go.
in,
You see? I knew there was something wrong.
Congratulations.
Jeez.
I will also throw in that per the Lawrence Development Code, we're supposed to, it asks for 30% of stone or brick or masonry materials on each facade. And so as we've played with it, right now, we're a little bit over 30%.
like 30.2.
30.2. So,
Marginally over.
so it will become a balance
Do you-
of any modification of, if we bring that stone back to the corner, we lose that.
Is that a variance piece also, or no?
If we're under 30%, we would have to ask for a variance.
But we're compliant right now. That's
Okay.
basically what you're saying.
And do you have a stone wall around the patio down on the
There's a
on the
stone
grade?
base.
And
And a stone base at the base of that storefront.
you're counting all of those?
Mhm.
Okay. Well,
See,
It doesn't
the
bother-
Disney World part of me kind of really likes.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me because it's a modern design
Yeah.
and I know it's not a load-bearing masonry wall.
Yeah.
But you do have that option available to you if you know, if you wanted to send it to the Architectural Review Committee to play with it a little bit, or if it was the will of the commission to go ahead and grant the certificate of approval with the condition that the Architectural Review Committee sign off on the final building design.
Lynn, can you pull that up? Can you pull up that slide again where you showed the options that the
Yes.
committee has?
Okay.
And did any other commissioners have discussion points or anything?
Oh, really?
Initially,
I've got,
go ahead.
I've got a question on the chimney real quick. Is there any way to bring that down just at least a smidgen?
It's been reduced.
Like, I know you said it's in proportion, but it does seem slightly too tall.
Yeah, that's my feeling too. It's reminding me of the opposite end of campus, the Oriad Towers.
Well, and I know that he said that was kind of the intent, is to relate it back to that to make sure it's an anchor.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because I'm assuming that the BTUs and things like that you're going to choose a fireplace that doesn't need that much
Height.
to function, could we bring it down just a little bit?
Yep.
I think it could function as a chimney if it were a little bit shorter, yes. And we've reduced it pretty significantly from, the original concept.
Well, the original, yeah.
Yeah, the original concept. I think part of what we're trying to balance, if you look at that southwest corner, really helping it to stand proud and be visible both from the east and from the west. Could it function if it were reduced? Certainly. I think that's certainly an option. We're also exploring opportunities to incorporate, elements from the university, whether it's the university seal or something on that sort of exposed
Okay.
face to give it, so it's not just blank.
'Cause it's not-
Setting up as well, so.
But the building's not meant to be another gateway.
No, it's functioning more as an anchor for the northwest corner of the campus.
Right, but when you're driving up the hill, that tower's going to seem extra tall when you drive up the hill to the building before you turn.
This viewpoint.
This view?
Right, yeah.
I mean, the tower feels overpowering to me as well.
I feel like if you lose height on the tower, though, it's going to make the building seem bulkier.
Yeah.
Or helps balance.
Yeah.
It really does. And I can't exactly put a finger on it, but a shorter tower just is going to, I think, be awkward.
I know we usually find fault in everything. I don't think we have to find fault.
No, and I was saying, I'm talking like maybe 2 feet max, like not much, just a little bit. But I don't want to send this to the ARC over that fact. Like, I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, if there's an opportunity to bring it down, I'd be okay with it coming down a little bit.
I'd love to hear that you employed classical design proportions.
That's what I was going.
That's
exactly what I was wondering.
Usonian, I think more than anything else, really thinking about Frank Lloyd Wright houses and how those, chimneys are proportionate to the box and how they really extend up. And I think the comment about it being a counterpoint to the horizontality of the overall composition is an important piece of that. And sure, I think when viewed in isolation, it does maybe feel a little bit exaggerated, but when you step back and look at the composition of the elevation in whole, I think it really does help counterbalance the horizontality of the overall structure and the visibility, even when approaching from east to west. I think being able to see that structure, it helps. All that said, we'd be happy to take a look at variations on this and
Well,
study it with the group.
I think the key question, Stanley, is do you want do you want it to go to HRC? Do you want to discuss it anymore? And Brenna and Joy, you are the ARC.
We are.
That's the question.
I think it's up to the commission to decide if it should go to the ARC. I, as a commissioner, do not feel it needs to. I think it's met all the criteria. I think it's going to make a wonderful anchor of the end of campus. Right now, it just kind of peters out over there. And the tower, I think, helps say, you know, this is the edge and now you're in the residential area.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion it definitely, I don't think warrants going to ARC, but I do feel like we should have a condition that the ARC does approve the final, because I think there's enough steps to happen between BZA and some other things that ARC should get a kind of a last pass after all those other things have been completed and what changes that could happen between now and then.
I agree with Commissioner Buchanan, simply based on the fact that these revisions were only submitted yesterday, and we're all kind of taking like a first look at these, and that having it go to, not go to ARC and come back, but that it kind of get a certificate of approval on the condition that ARC.
Yeah, I will
also,
follow you with that.
I think, because in what we're talking about here, there's obviously some things that would make for good discussion. But I don't know if it necessarily needs to come back to the full commission, because that's my opinion.
All right. You want to make a motion? Do you want the language on the screen?
Yes, please. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I will move that the commission approve the certificate of application with the condition that the ARC subcommittee approve the final design for this 1420 Crescent Road project.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham and Dearborn. We'll take a vote now. Commissioner Buchanan,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
and Coleman is an aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
All right.
It's gonna be a cool building.
Yeah.
I like
can't
that.
wait.
I like everything about it.
Can't wait to see it. All right, let's get back to the agenda.
That's it.
So that was our last public hearing item.
Just any miscellaneous?
We do, yeah, I have a miscellaneous item that we are going to wait for Lynn to talk about. I've been instructed that I have to give up the chair position. I've been here too long. So we're going to have that election in January. And I would like for each of you to think about who the next chair should be. And what's the procedure, please, Lynn?
So at the beginning of your January meeting, we will open the floor for nominations for chair, and someone from the commission can nominate themselves or another member of the commission, and then there will be a vote. After that vote, that new chair will take over presiding over that January meeting, and the next item of the business will be to elect a vice chair. So the reason Joy and I talked a little bit about this was because since that changeover happens at the beginning of the meeting, if you could think about whether or not that's something that you're interested in, or if you can think of someone that you think would really be good for the chair position, if you want to send me an email not to the entire commission, but just to me, and let me know your thoughts. I can see if that person is interested so that we don't get hung up at that meeting when we're talking about how to move forward in that meeting, because you do have public hearing items for that meeting.
Joy's not allowed to continue chair, is what you're saying?
Correct.
In a nutshell.
Sadly, or happily for me.
Yeah, happily for you.
Can we decide not to accept that?
I know. I'm remembering, what's her name? who
You're too nice.
Went through the same thing, okay.
Jody, yes.
Jody, yeah.
Yeah, Jody was a great chair.
Is there what is the term limit, I guess, on serving as chair?
I can pull that up for you. We just recently adopted the policies that the city commission set for all advisory boards across the city. And technically, you're not supposed to serve more than 2 years, consecutive years as chair. And Joy has graciously given us 3 years because we changed midstream to this new policy. So I think she probably deserves a little bit of a vacation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd want to get out in front and say that I end up taking too many abstentions and don't feel that I would be a good chair in this role. So.
Thank you for that feedback.
I have another question for you, Lynn. For the vacant position that we have on this commission here, is there a professional requirement?
Yes, we need a professional historian that meets the National Park Service standards for a historian. Typically, that is a historian that has usually at least a PhD in history.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be Kansas history or architectural history. The idea behind the professional historian is a training and a way of thinking about history, documentation of history, and preservation.
Okay.
And so it doesn't they don't have to specialize in Kansas history or architecture, but they do need to be recognized as meeting those National Park Service standards.
So when Commissioner Haynes was on HRC, they were fulfilling kind of that role as a
He was
historian?
fulfilling that role, yes. He has a PhD in history.
Okay. Yeah, find someone at Watkins to join.
Well, the only other people in Lawrence would be the history faculty.
Well, I
Or-
think we have some other people in the city that
Yeah.
probably have PhDs in history. We just, we just need to keep trying to get the word out to see if anybody's interested.
Remind them that it counts as service.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and with that, we are adjourned.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy,
Great.
for your service.
Yes.
Yeah.